Well, Donald Trump just moved forward with one of the most aggressive trade wars in the history of the United States. Canada, Mexico, and even the entire European Union are under threat as Trump seems dead set on imposing new tariffs on everyone around the globe. But the potential fallout from Trump's actions could actually be catastrophic for America. Just look at this map, highlighting the top trading partner for each U.S. state incredibly. 42 of the 50 states count either Canada, Mexico, or China as their top trading partner. The truth is, Donald Trump has a massive problem on his hands if he continues down this road. Just think about it. Trump campaigned on reducing inflation, lowering prices, and stimulating the economy. But tariffs are taxes. It doesn't take a genius to know that adding tariffs will only increase costs for the average American consumer. It's just basic economics. But there is a much bigger story going on behind these tariffs. Canada and Mexico are not in a position of strength to fight back. Their economies are just too small to have any leverage against Trump. But there is one economic powerhouse that does have the leverage to not only withstand Trump's new tariffs, but also fight back and systematically target some of America's most important industries. The Financial Post wrote this story detailing how China has strategically targeted the tungsten industry and stopped all exports to the United States in retaliation to Trump's new tariffs. China accounts for about 80% of the world's tungsten output, and tungsten hasn't been mined commercially in the U.S. since 2015. The United States has counted China as its biggest source of tungsten imports, and ironically, tungsten is one of the key minerals needed for the United States weapons manufacturing. And this is exactly the type of leverage China has in this new trade war. Just listen to this quote from Lewis Black, the CEO of one of America's leading mineral production companies. "It's the warning shot, because we cannot exist without it. Our economy, manufacturing, defense, everything. It is so dependent on it. And yet Russia, China, and North Korea have about 90% of the output." Wow, what a statement. 3 of the United States' big geopolitical rivals control 90% of the market share of tungsten, the key mineral needed to build American weapons. But if Donald Trump wants a trade war with China, these are the exact types of industries the Chinese government is going to target with retaliatory sanctions. Everyone. This is why we study geopolitics, because, as Donald Trump has proven in his first few weeks in office, quick decisions from the White House can instantly affect the values of publicly traded companies. Stay tuned at the end of today's presentation, as I'm going to show you an exciting company working directly in the tungsten industry that could benefit tremendously from this upcoming trade war. But first, we need to break down some of the most common misunderstandings regarding tariffs to show you how lost some Americans are. Just look at this tweet from crypto insider Anthony Pompliano, who states, "Tariffs don't cause inflation. Tariffs lead to lower prices for American consumers. Tariffs create American jobs, and tariffs lead to lower income taxes." If the President of the United States doesn't even understand how tariffs work, then this actually gives Beijing a unique position of strength in the upcoming trade war. To understand what I mean, look at this new Foreign Affairs article entitled "China's Trump Strategy." Beijing is preparing to take advantage of disruption. It doesn't matter if you like Donald Trump or not. One thing everyone can certainly agree on is that Donald Trump has indeed brought a lot of disruption to the U.S. government in his first few weeks as president. But here is how Beijing is analyzing the situation. Trump may well be able to score some short-term victories, but Beijing plans to look beyond him. They think Trump's policies will undermine U.S. power and reduce U.S. global standing in the long run. And when that happens, China wants to be ready to take advantage. Over the past few years, we've seen China's government improve relations with some of its most important neighbors in the Asia-Pacific region. One of the biggest examples of this is the impressive breakthrough in the China-India relationship. Both countries were engaged in a border dispute that resulted in a military standoff for over 4 years. However, Xi and Modi resolved that conflict last October during the 2024 BRICS summit in Russia, shocking the world and bringing the two nations and the entire BRICS alliance closer in solidarity. China's government has even allowed Indian nationals the right of passage to resume pilgrimages to Tibet. I bet you never heard that story in Western media. But it's geopolitical wins like this that give China more political leverage. China has also made progress with Japan, the United States' most important ally in Asia, by resuming political visits between Chinese and Japanese leaders for the first time in 7 years. China has also restored visa-free entry for Japanese visitors. I think the most important insight from that Foreign Affairs article was the quote that while Trump may be able to score some short-term victories, Beijing plans to look beyond him. This is an absolutely crucial point to understand. Everything in China is approached and done with strategic long-term planning. During the same week that Donald Trump threatened to pass 25% tariffs against Canada and Mexico, which, by the way, would have been an absolute disaster for the U.S. economy, China was welcoming the Prime Minister of Thailand and celebrating the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations by signing 14 new cooperation agreements. Diversifying China's trade away from the United States has been a primary goal for Beijing over the past 4 years. And the Chinese have been wildly successful in preparing for Trump's new trade war by solidifying these new trade relationships. Chinese investment into Vietnam, for example, increased by 80% in 2023 to $4.5 billion, with the Chinese-Vietnamese bilateral trade reaching over $260 billion. This amount is greater than the China-Russia relationship, despite Beijing buying large amounts of cheap Russian gas as a result of the war in Ukraine. Unlike in 2016, China's leadership now knows what to expect from Trump. This time around, Chinese leaders remain confident that even if the country's economy suffers, 4 years of Trump is unlikely to send it to a full-blown crisis. If Trump follows through on his declared policies, such as those on trade and territorial expansion, he could do severe damage to the United States' credibility and global leadership. And once again, we have a prime example of China resorting to strategic long-term planning, playing the long game, and essentially waiting for Trump's own policies to dismantle the foundations of U.S. global hegemony. The future of the United States is very much uncertain with Trump as president. One day, he could wake up and decide to pass 25% tariffs against our closest ally and neighbor, Canada, but then reverse that decision within 24 hours. Trump likely backed down because of the immense pressure from his wealthy inner circle after the stock market crashed in response to the tariff announcement. This is the balancing act Trump is now facing. His billionaire allies want market stability, while his political insiders are pushing for a full-scale trade war. But so many members of Trump's inner circle have commercial interests tied back to China. Elon Musk is the world's richest man, but 55% of every Tesla is built in the Shanghai Gigafactory. Even Kash Patel, Donald Trump's pick to lead the FBI, owns over $1 million worth of shares in the Chinese fashion company Shine. And as this AP article points out, he has a roster of foreign clients with interests that could clash with the FBI he hopes to lead. What's most interesting here, this could end up backfiring and hurting the one thing Donald Trump cares most about: the status of the US dollar as a world reserve currency. For a better look into what's really going on, let's look at the insights from London School of Economics Professor Qiu Jin, one of the best insiders into the Chinese economy.
China has signed with 40 countries bilateral swap agreements to settle in the local currencies. Of course, these are marginal improvements, but you see the dollar slowly declining. And the fundamental question, even apart from financial sanctions, is that there's a dollar shortage. Emerging markets, the size of GDP, is growing massively. The demand for dollars is there. There's not enough liquidity. So now the interest rate is high, the dollar is at a very high level. This actually has a huge financial implication on the developing countries who are all looking to diversify.
Both. Demand for the dollar is high, but the liquidity isn't there. This means countries are actively looking for dollars to facilitate global trade, and they can't get any. And Caillou Jin just outlined exactly why Trump's tariffs aren't just catastrophic for the global economy. They're actively accelerating the collapse of the dollar. Trump wants to reduce the U.S. trade deficit, but he also wants to maintain the dollar as the global reserve currency. These two goals cannot coexist, they contradict one another. If the U.S. wants the world to keep using the dollar in global trade and finance, it has to keep running a trade deficit, meaning the U.S. has to continue buying more products than it exports so that dollars can keep circulating throughout the global economy. But if Trump implements tariffs and the other countries can't sell goods to the U.S., which means they can't access dollars, that's exactly what's happening right now. These rapidly growing economies, countries that need dollars for trade and finance, are being cut off from the supply. And what happens when nations desperately need dollars but can't get them? They simply stop using them. Trump's tariffs are pushing countries to move away from the dollar, accelerating the shift toward bilateral trade and alternative payment systems. This will have major consequences on the global financial system, with China positioned to benefit while the U.S. tries to force global trade in its favor. China has been building long-term economic ties and positioning itself as a key player in a multipolar world. The U.S. thought it could force China into submission through tariffs, but it's only pushing the world away from the dollar, which harms America's standing in global trade. China is playing the long game, strengthening its trade networks and watching the world pivot toward its favor. Now, shifting to investments, let's discuss the tungsten market. China, North Korea, and Russia control 90% of global tungsten production, which is critical for military applications like tanks, rockets, and bullets. The U.S. hasn't mined tungsten since 2015 and relies entirely on imports. With Trump escalating tensions, China may target key U.S. industries, including defense. This opens up a great opportunity for American Tungsten. A company aiming to become the first domestic producer of tungsten, American Tungsten is advancing a former major U.S. mine with minimal environmental barriers. It's an exciting opportunity, as tungsten is crucial for defense, clean energy, and high-tech industries. The company's stock has already risen 111% in the last 30 days, and with the ongoing trade war, this could be just the beginning. For more details on American Tungsten, check out the links in the description. As always, do your own research before investing. Thank you for your support. If you're interested in how China's space projects could revolutionize energy, check out that full presentation as well.